This
Yes.
conference will now be recorded.
Okay.
Yes. I just shared.
Yeah. Click on create new project. You have Maven, right?
Yes, sir. I didn't install that one yesterday.
Okay. Okay. Now click on Maven. Click on next. Everyone, please follow the steps. Group ID is something like your package name. Artifact ID is something like your project name. Okay. Group ID, normally how we will give? We will give like com dot, okay, spark dot, spark hands on, like that we'll give. You can give small letters, spark hands on. Yeah, click
Yes.
next. Hmm. Your project name is spark hands on. Finish. Since it's the first time you are setting up, it will take more time to configure and start. What happened? Why it's not created? Why it's not started?
I think it is doing.
Mhm. So daily it will give one tip. The tip is nothing but it will show, the shortcut commands and something. Okay, you can simply close it or you can do it. And whenever a pop-up this comes, right, enable auto import. Even if you ignore this, we can, from settings we can do that. Auto import, what it does, uh, we will be adding the dependencies. Okay, what is the dependencies? So now here three things we need to understand. One is Scala, other one is Spark framework, third one is IntelliJ, right? So when you are creating a link between these three, Scala anyway you have a plugin, and Java also, actually there is a Java also, right? So your IntelliJ will be aware for Scala, for Java is already integrated with the libraries, will be integrated with your IntelliJ framework. So that's how when you download IntelliJ, internally it will be having Java 1.8 or Java 10.x or whatever the recent versions, it will be there. It means your IntelliJ framework or tool by default will aware the this JDK, SDK, this by default it will be aware. Okay, so if you write a small core Java program or small Scala program, it can understand, it can compile the code. But when you want to compile any third-party frameworks like a Spark or any other framework like Servlet, JSP, Spring, Hibernate, whatever the other apart from the core, if you want to do with your IntelliJ, we need to add those libraries. So then only your IntelliJ can understand that, okay, this class is derived from this library or this class is using from this library. So that information will be available. So to provide that libraries, what we do, we have something called pom.xml. So whatever the file it's open, right? This is called pom.xml. Okay, look at here. Pom.xml. Pom.xml is nothing but project object model. Okay, so in this XML, you will give your libraries, you will provide your libraries here. Okay, once you provided those libraries, then your IntelliJ will connect to the internet. So that is the reason when you're using the Maven, right, you should have internet. So your framework will, your tool, IntelliJ tool will connect to the internet and download those libraries. So where it will download? It will download in your default C drive. You
My user. You're not audible.
sorry, uh, where I missed, I don't know. See, this project is there, right? Spark hands-on. This project name also is nothing but one of the folder. Okay, in this specified location. Okay, inside that folder you'll be having a subfolders. So by default, when you create a project, right, what will happen? Maven project I'm talking about. So it will create src main. In that main, you will be having Java. Default, it will be Java. So since we want to Scala, we have to add a directory here. Right click, new directory. Can you give a name as Scala? Then if you see the difference, it looks like a normal project, but it looks like src project. It just looks like uh, it's a little brighter, right, than this. So how it will come? So this project, we have to provide that root. I mean, we have to make it as a root. If you say mark directory as, I have created directory, mark directory as source root. Now you got the Scala part. Okay, and one more thing what we need to do here, and one more thing what we need to do, you have to add framework support. So because we are going to add the Scala, right, add a Scala framework support. It is telling that I didn't find any libraries for that. For that, you need to select the libraries. This is the system provided. This one only you download it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, or you can browse through. It's in D drive, right? D
Yes,
drive.
isn't it?
uh, we have kept it directly under D drive only, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Scala, just select bin, click OK. Not found Scala library. Why? We didn't download proper one.
We downloaded and it was working.
Okay, now it came. Okay, now it came. I think I have selected bin directory, that's the reason. Okay, if you select the home directory, it will able to find them. Okay, click OK. Now you have a Scala framework support also. Okay, now once you created your Java, once you created your Scala support, go to settings. We'll just verify whether all our JDKs are okay. Close this, go to project settings. Okay, we have a Java. Okay, we have a SDK 1.8. We have a global libraries. This one also there. Okay, this is correct. I think Java is enough here. Libraries. We will see. Okay, first we'll go ahead and create. Okay, now we'll start prepare our pom.xml. We'll prepare our pom.xml. So let's understand here. src main Java. If you want to write any Java code, we will go ahead and create any sub packages under this, and we will do. And resources. Resources is something like, suppose if you have any configuration files, your environment files, so the property files, we will keep under resources. Scala source files we will write here. Excuse me. The test is nothing but, if you want to write any test cases, so we will keep under this. So here also you can add a new directory, but anyway it's not required, but I'm just showing you. In future remain required. Scala, click OK and select that Scala folder, mark directory as test root, test source root. Okay, if you want to write anything you will write it. Now these are all external libraries. So far what we have only these two, Java and Scala, because we have not added anything yet. So we have to add here. We have not added anything yet. Okay, we need to add it. Okay, so 1 second. Let me send you one POM file. That one. I think it's there in my email. Okay. Sample POM file. Let me send it. Or else I'll do one thing. Okay. Whatever is there in my IntelliJ, that POM file will put into WhatsApp. Okay. Our group, I'll put in our group. So what you do, you just copy that and paste it here, and we will modify accordingly. Okay. Okay. I have pasted in our WhatsApp group. Ashok, could you please connect to
Yeah,
web WhatsApp and copy that to our any text pad or directly in this one?
sure.
Copy from properties to, just select. No, you have to click one more time. Readme. Yeah. Copy. Put into text editor, because some of the things we need to be modified.
We make it
It's a
more
Java
visible.
one. No, sorry,
Is it visible? Is it visible, or shall I zoom?
it's visible. We can just increase the font like this.
Oh,
Hold the control and increase. Okay. So your Spark Scala version is 1.12.12, correct?
yes.
So modify that. And your Scala compilation, a compact version is 12. And your Spark is, if I remember correctly, it's 2.4.0, correct?
Yes.
What was your Scala version? Spark version? No matter whatever you have installed, but whatever you configure, that's actually matter.
2.4.6.
246.
Yes, it is there. Below.
Okay. You have set the class path and everything, right?
Yes.
Okay. Go to your text editor. Could you please open the text editor? Yeah. So keep it to 4.6, 2.4.6. Okay. And come down. These are all fine. This is all fine. These are all fine. I think there may be some compatibility issue may come because this is not required. Okay, you can comment this. 1 second, let me do one thing. Remove this. For now, this is not required. This is how we'll comment in XML file. Okay, this is Spark. Anyway, language it is taking. Spark core it is taking. Spark SQL it is taking. Anyway, Spark mlib is not required for you. Okay, but let it be now. Okay, you can remove this this extra comment stuff. MySQL connector, yeah, if you want to connect to MySQL and read the data and all this, you can make use of that. Okay, Spark Excel, this is also not required. For now, you can just comment it. So later, whatever you want to do, even this one also you can comment. Avro also you can comment. And org specs. Okay. Then Apache Kafka, let it be, no problem. SRC main resources, SRC test resources, Scala. Okay. Okay, rest all good. Okay, copy everything. Control A, Control C. No, you just type A. Remove that. You removed everything. No. 1 second. 1 second. Once you removed everything. Control C. Okay. It's showing some errors. Let me check them. Dependency. Why this came like this?
Group
Here something is
ID.
broken. No. It is something is broken. Okay. Here there should be dependency should be there. Okay, this should be there. it is broken. Okay, that was the reason. Okay, anyway, this red color will go because it is importing the things. Dependency, properties, repositories, dependencies. Under dependency one. So dependency is nothing but you are adding your library. Okay, then it will start import it. Okay, that's called resolving the dependencies. Okay, once that is this is your Scala dependency started, dependency ended, dependency started, and this is your Spark. So Spark version you have specified. Okay, Spark SQL version you have mlib MySQL. Okay, and argspecs Kafka closed. Then this is SRC. This, yeah, this will be, it will actually take some time. What will happen, it will try to resolve all of them. Once it resolve, what it's trying to do, no, it's trying to import all the your libraries. Suppose if you do here like let it resolve, it will show that. So it will try to match respective version and respective compatible Scala versions, and it will import all of them. Okay, by the time it's okay, once it is done, then only we can write the code. Okay, by the time it will set up, what I can do, open the Spark shell,
Hi, here I have a question.
please go ahead.
Yeah, what exactly is the difference between group ID and artifact ID? Artifact ID.
Very good question. Okay, let me do one thing. Look at here. Have you heard about the Maven? Maven dependencies. Have you heard about the Maven?
No.
Okay. Maven is a build tool. Okay. Maven is a build tool. What is Gradle, Ant? You heard about any of the build tool like a Gradle, Maven, Ant, SBT? There are so many build tools. Okay. What these
Okay.
build tools will do? Okay. In your project, right? After you're writing all your project, so you're not going to sit and compile every file and create a class files, right? Suppose
Mhm.
your code has to run. If your code has to run, what you need to do? You have to create a build. Build is nothing but a jar or a jar file you need to create, correct?
Okay.
What the jar contains? All libraries it contains. A jar file contains all the libraries. When I say libraries, is nothing but your classes and interfaces or traits or whatever it is. If you're going with Java, classes and interfaces and abstract classes, that's a library. So altogether, compiled classes will be there. Compiled class files will be there in the jar file. You take any jar file, okay? So you might have downloaded any other jar files, right? Open the jar file and see what will happen inside the jar file. You will be having a class files. What is this class file? Because someone has written some project or some programs and we compiled it. When you compiled it, and they will export it as a jar. After compiling all the class files, they will create it as a one file, Java archive. Jar means Java archive. In Java archive, you will be having all class files. So what is the use of the jar file? The use of the jar file is whenever you are imported or given to your project, whenever you add it to your project in the libraries, you can make use of those classes. Whatever the compiled classes are there in the jar, you can make use those classes in your project. Now we are using uh, uh, Spark, or you maybe in other projects you may be seeing an Spring or Hibernate or whatever the framework you are using in your project. you will be using some classes which are not created by you. Some classes are not created by you. You will be using in your project. Anytime anyone experienced that? And our project, apart from your own written classes, so normally we will write our own class, right? Apart from your own written classes, you will be using some classes. Yes or no?
Like in Python, we import modules.
Yes, if it's a Python, we'll import modules. If it's a MapReduce, do you guys remember I have shown that MapReduce mapper class, mapper, reducer. Do you guys remember that? No?
Whenever we are extending some classes,
Yes, you're extending some
then
classes.
like for
Those
overriding some.
classes, yes, those classes. Where is this MapReduce demo? If you go and see, if not only this guys, any project you take, any project. I'm just showing you because it's a handy. That's the reason I'm showing my one. Okay. If you go to this Java code, this is created by me. This is created by me, but this is not created by me. It is I'm making use existing one, and this is also I'm making use existing one. I'm not created by me. Okay, that is the one. So look at your configuration. It's not created by me. So I'm making use an existing one. Okay, exception is not created by me. I'm making use an existing one. Run tool is not created by me. I'm using existing one. This configuration, new configuration is created by someone, not me. It means the framework. Okay, so what I'm doing, I am making use in my project. I'm using this in my project. How will I make it? How I'll get those things? By adding the library. By adding the library to your build path. By adding the library to your build path. When you add, what is adding build path is nothing but your POM. Okay, you're putting all these things in your build. Here it's nothing but you're adding to your build path. When you add it to your build path, when you compile your program, it will pick those classes from the build path. It will pick these classes from the build path. Then it will be available. Otherwise it is unknown, right? Otherwise it's unknown. Can you open that? Yeah, it is unknown. So how will my program knows what is this job? Job also is not created by me. What is this configuration? How your program knows? Your program will bring or take it from the build path. Okay, coming to her question now. To get these libraries, we will be import from somewhere. We will download and input it, or we will directly connect to the internet and put it. Okay, so if you download manually, what you need to do, you have to download the jar files from the frameworks. Suppose if you download your MapReduce framework, so let me show you here. We have uh, I have downloaded this Spark, right? If I go inside the Spark jars, look at here. I have so many jars here. I have so many jars. Okay, these jar files have some of the classes. So either you can download like this, these jar files, or you can configure in your Maven, our build tool. Not only Maven, it can be any build tool. It can be SVT, it can be Gradle, it can be, there are so many. Okay, so you will configure there like this. You'll configure like this. So when you configure, it will connect to the internet and download. Okay, here what is a group ID? Question is, what is a group ID? So whenever we create a project, right, we will not directly write our code into one folder. We will clearly segregate our code. Suppose if I'm working on the service related stuff, service layer will call. I'll create one package called services, and all my code will be there in that. I will create DAO layer, we'll call DAO. We will put into that. You're segregating your code like by creating a packages. So the group ID is nothing but a package. The artifact ID is nothing but your project name. Group ID is nothing but your package. Artifact is nothing but your project. Okay. So and the version is which version it is. Okay. For that I was showing an example, right? So go here, go to this. Let's say version I'm selecting. Let's say 2.4.6. Did we download 2.4.6? I'm not really sure. Okay, when you click on this 2.4.6, okay, and look at here, Maven, Gradle, SBT, Ivy, Grape. These are all build tools. They're all different build tools. Okay, Maven, you have to supply like this. If it is a Gradle, you have to supply like this. If it is a SBT, you have to supply like this. In their build file, so these are different build files you need to supply. Okay, here what it is represent, I'm making use of the Spark core from this package org.apache.spark. In that project I have something called in this package I have something called spark hyphen core underscore project. In that, this is the version, this is Scala version, and this is your Spark version. Is this clear to everyone? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the meaning of that. Any other question? So your group ID is nothing but your package name. Your artifact ID is nothing but your project name. So under Spark hyphen core, right? Whatever the library supported by the Spark core, everything will be there. Whatever the classes supported by this, everything will be there in that project. Okay. Is this
Okay.
clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's see whether our setup is complete or not. Yeah, it's the first time. It'll actually take some time. Okay. So don't get thing. Though I'm just thinking, look at here. Earlier I was having 1.8 and Scala. Now you guys see these many has been inputted. This many has been downloaded, guys. Okay. These are all the things has been downloaded. Suppose I'm interested on, let me open any one of the well-known class. Let's say 2.12 Scala will just see. Okay. When I expand this, look at here, this is the jar file. When I expand the jar file, look at here, guys. Okay. Scala library, right? Scala. In this, these are the subfolders. Okay. I mean to say sub uh, packages. Okay. So let's say something related to IO. When I expand this, std.in source. I think we didn't cover Scala reading files and all. So you can use this. You can use the source to read the file. Okay. If you take a maths library, if you go here, big decimal, big int, fractional, numeric, ordering, these all comes from here. These are all the classes, whatever you are using in your Scala programming, these are all coming from here. And let me do one thing. Util, okay, util. Control. Do you guys remember break statement we have used? Break. How many of you remember? Breakable. That break from here. Exception. How we have used exception? Okay. Uh, Matching also we have used. And your collections. Okay, let me show the collection. Collections will be there in a collection. How many of you recently only we discussed the collections, right, guys? Collections. In that, immutable collection, mutable collection. Do you guys remember this? Yes, no. In
Yes,
immutable,
sir.
if you go and see, you have array buffer,
Yes.
list buffer. Do you remember these things? How they are, from where they are coming? They're all coming from the libraries. So when you append that library, your Scala library, this one, you'll get all those flavors. Otherwise, you'll not get. Okay, that's the purpose of adding the libraries or adding the dependency. This dependency help you to download all this stuff which you are going to use in your project. I think now it is good. No errors in the build file. Okay, let's go back. Yeah, so most of the developers who are already working, they are aware, and who are new to the project environment, they will be not knowing this. Okay, I hope this helped you guys to understand what is the POM. Okay, and also let me explain the POM, this POM little high level, not in detail. This is every XML file will be having something called uh, uh, um, doc type. Okay, so XSD, schema definition something. Okay, for that to compile that XML file, there should be some definition will be there. That is the definition here. Okay, next, and our project is Spark hands-on, right? Look at here, artifact ID, this is our project name, and com.start.spark hands-on. If anyone want to use our project in their project, they have to download from this location. I mean, they have to use like this. Artifact group ID has to be like this, and our project name has to be like this, and version is 1.0. If you want to keep it a snapshot, you can keep it, or if you want to remove it, you can remove it. Okay, that's up to us. Next, coming to properties. These properties, I don't want to specify every time I Spark version and the Scala version. What I did, whatever the things I'm making use in my project, I have defined all my versions here. What is my Java version? What is my Scala version? What is my Spark version? Okay, and when I'm importing the libraries, right? I'll just specify like this. Look at here. I don't specify. I didn't hard code it. So the advantage of not hard coded it tomorrow. So you guys saw today only, no? I have given a POM file. I have given a POM file which was 2.11.12. Okay. If I didn't put it in properties, if I hard coded, wherever the 2.11 has been used, I have to go and manually modify it. So now I did this properties way, dynamic way. I did dynamic way. One place if I change, it get automatically reflected here, everywhere, wherever Spark has been used. Spark compilation compact version has been used, it has been automatically reflected. That's the advantage of keeping the properties. Okay, coming to the repository. So repository is something like from where I need to download these libraries. That's a repository, and the dependencies are nothing but so far whatever we had talked. So now I'm interested in the Spark core. Go ahead and download the Spark core. Later I'm interested in the Spark SQL. Later I'm interested in the Spark SQL. Go ahead and download the Spark SQL, like a Spark SQL. Say I'm interested in the Spark SQL. Then I will add my Spark SQL library and respective version. I'll take any version I want. Okay, so it's based on your requirement. If you also look at the closely, Cloudera libraries, Hortonwork libraries, if you want specific. Okay, WSO2 release, Spring plugins. So you can select them as well. Suppose I want from here, when I click on that, it will show the Cloudera specific. Okay, these are all what I can say. The libraries by default is given to you, which you can directly make use. Otherwise, it will be a big headache. You have to download manually and put into build path, and we have to set the class path. And after that, when you are executing them, right, executing them in the project, right, what do you need to do? You have to, again, there you need to put into respective path and give the build. All those things will be there. But if you do if you use the Maven or any of the build tool, the advantage is you really no need to do this. Automatically it'll go download it. It'll automatically go into build path. Then it'll directly we can make use. Clear? Is it clear?
Yes, Ravi.
Okay. Okay. Let's move on to our first program. I know that I have eaten a lot of time by explaining this, but still that is useful, I feel. Okay. Go ahead. Go to your Scala. Go to Scala. First create our Scala package. New package. Can anyone tell me what is the package? What is the purpose of the package? What is the purpose of the package? I have explained this in earlier sessions. What is the purpose of the package? Prapurna, Venkat, Ashok.
We can access the class outside the class as well as outside the package as well.
No, 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 no.
Sorry.
Guys, yes, it's very simple, guys. Let's say, let me give an example again. Let's say in your you have one directory called songs. Okay, forget about C drive, D drive, and all those things. You have a directory called songs. In the songs directory, you have more than 1500 songs, including everything. Language, different languages songs, different type of songs like melodies, pop, or different kind of songs. Okay, disco, um, different kind of songs are there. Now one day you came from office and you were tired and you felt to listen some melody songs, let's say Raja, some melody songs. In these 1500 songs, 1500, 2000, how many, what are the songs? You need to select a song by song, correct? Yes or no? You need to search for the song, because all the song names, there will be there are some songs will have the names and some songs will not be having a name. They'll just like a track or some name will be there, random name, correct? So searching for that specific song, it will take time. Instead of that, if anyone is not talking, please keep yourself mute. Okay, in this in these songs, let me keep everyone mute. Okay, so everyone is in mute. Instead of that, if you segregate the songs like this, songs, then you have segregated with segregated by language, or you segregated by genre. So depends how you segregated. So you have a language specific, like you have a, let's start with Telugu, and you have Hindi, you have Kannada, you have Tamil, you have some other, okay, English, like that. In his language wise, again you have a subcategory in the languages, like melody, or you can go by the singer or music director wise. So what will happen? Suppose you want to use some Telugu melody songs. What you will do? Directly you'll go Telugu folder, and you'll go to respect to subdirectory in that Telugu. If you go with the melody, just click on the melody and select the song. So which one is easy? Segregating categories wise is easy, or searching in 1500, 2000 songs easy? The segregation will help you to easily identify, right? That is the reason in your when you buy a laptop, what you will do, you can take a simple example here. Look at here how many segregations are there. Softwares you have kept separately, projects you have separately, some Python related stuff. So you have kept everything separately. Why you have kept all these things separately? Search is easy. It gives you a clear understanding. Okay, all Outlook related stuff here, all my documents are here, all Spark related here, all Scala related here, all Python related here. So you have clear segregation, correct? Similarly, in project also, we will be having lot of files, different type of files. Some executable files will be there, some helper classes will be there, some property files will be there. Okay, some different layers will be there. So when you have such kind of files, you won't keep everything under Scala. You will create a segregation. Okay, so like if you see our Scala, just now I have shown here Scala library, right? All collection related stuff is under collection. All math related stuff under the math folder. All utility related stuff under utility. So it's easy segregation. So same way we will do. Same way we will do. That's called package, creating a package. So when you create a subdirectory, the access levels also vary based on the whatever the access modifier you are using. Is this clear? Yes, no? So every package will start with com, or you can go with the org also, whatever the name you like. I'm just started. It's not mandatory. You can give any name. Okay, I'm just going with this call com dot spark dot core, because I'm going to use core programs under this folder. Okay, under Scala you have created one package. Guys, this package is nothing but, again, if you go and see under your this location, copy the path. If you go here under if you see in the file system, this is nothing but another folder only. Another folder only. Look at here. Till Scala, it was there. I created com under the Spark, under the core. The dot represent that parent child. Before dot, parent. After dot, child. Okay. I know that I'm taking a lot of time to explain. If anyone has any doubt, please ask me. Next, right click, new Scala object. This will be what we will do here. First, Spark program you can give, or you can say if you want to do word count, you can do the word count. Just first RDD, I'll say, or first Spark program. Okay, first Spark program. So tomorrow notes we'll see in detail about that. It will create one object. In this, we have to create a main method. You have to create a main method. In Spark also it will start with the main only, guys. Okay, this every execution, what I can say, executable program, every executable program will start from main. So when you submit to Spark, first it will start from the execution, which is main only. Okay, later, this is important, I want everyone to practice it. People will ask, write a program. So some people ask, you just write a logic is more than enough. Some people ask, create your main method, create your Spark session, because some people will not practice that. That is the reason. Okay, so they explicitly ask you to create this. Okay, I want you to write, Ashok. Take control. Yeah. So now we need to create Spark session, because we are using Spark 2.x. So we are not going to create any Spark context. I mean, as initial, we'll create a Spark session, then we'll make use of Spark context from there. Val Spark this is equal to Spark session. Spark is capital letter. Yes, take that. So it's automatically come. No, yeah, what it is you are writing? I said equal, after equal, right? First write Spark, small letter, man. Variable, how will you declare? Spark equal to Spark session. Capital letter, I told you, right? Spark, capital S. Yes, take the first one. Okay, dot builder. Everything it will automatically is giving you help. Dot dot app name. Give any of the application name. So whatever the name you want to give for your job. This is nothing but you're starting your Spark job, right? In the Spark job, what will be your job name? You can give anything. Sample program or first program or first Spark, whatever, in double quotes. Double quotes. Then dot master in double quotes, local, open array like a brackets, square brackets, and give star. Array bracket, square brackets. I said square brackets.
One second.
Inside the square bracket, star. I'll explain what is this in detail later, not now. Okay. Go at the end. Dot get or create. Dot get or create. So now your Spark session has been created. The Spark session has been created. Press enter. Val space sc, just sc, equal to spark dot. Now we are creating a Spark session, Spark context. Spark context. You see below there is something called Spark context. Yes, select that. Yeah. Press enter. Okay, now we are going to create some data set. On that data, we will be creating RDD. Okay, so because if you want to work with your Spark, either you have to create a, I think I'll keep you mute. Okay, so I'm going to create an RDD. Why? Because if you want to work with Spark, either you have to create a RDD, data frame, or data set, any of these objects. Otherwise, we cannot work. Okay, so since it is an initial sessions, we'll work with RDDs. Then we will see later in the Spark data frames and all. So to create a RDD, we have a different ways. Okay, we have a different ways to create a RDD. I'll be showing you first way as I shown in the last example. First, I'll prepare some data. This data I'm taking from array. Okay, here I'll give 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. So I have taken some odd odd numbers. Okay, now I want to create a RDD from it. So val RDD equal to sc dot, this is one way of creating it. Okay, let me put it's a collection data. This is collection of data. Creating an RDD using parallelize method. Okay, now here sc dot parallelize, look at here, parallelize, and you'll pass your data. Now RDD is ready. What is RDD? We will see in detail about what is RDD and all we'll discuss. RDD is resilient distributed data set. Resilient distributed data set. By definition, RDD is nothing but resilient distributed data set. Okay. Resilient distributed data set means resilient means fault tolerant. Distributed means it is distributed to multiple machines. Data set is nothing but a data. RDD is a collection of data. RDD is collection of data. Okay, so this collection of data will be divided by partitions. Divided by partitions. Okay, we will see how many partitions are there and all other stuff we'll see. Okay, so let's do one thing. I'm going to apply some transformation on this. Let me apply simple transformation, map transformation. Before map transformation, what I'll do, print ln number of partitions. Do you guys remember in the last session, I have shown you RDD and with the multiple parts, partition 1, partition 2, partition 3, like that. So I'm going to show you that RDD dot get num partitions. Get num partitions is the method will get you the number of partitions. Get num partitions will get you the number of partitions. Okay. Okay. This one, I'll just go here. Spark and shell. When you start Spark shell, right, you really no need to create these two things, because by default your what I can say, your Spark shell will give you. It's taking time to down. Okay, by the time I'll complete it. Number of partitions, and let me apply some map transformation. Well, map test. I'm just taking the map test. Okay, you can take any name. The map test equal to RDD dot map. What is the map? Can anyone tell me? Hey, font is very small. It looks correct. I will increase the font later. Okay, in the settings we can increase. Yearly into 10. I mean, I'm just doing a very small operation. Okay, it has been increased by 10. Again, after map transformation also you can see the number of mappers, number of partitions. After map transformation, guys, this is just the sample program. Okay, I will explain in detail later. This now here map transformation map test dot collect, then you can do dot for each, you can say println, just say println. Let me compile this program, compile and run this program. How to compile and run? Right click, run. So in the tomorrow session, we will be writing a programs, right? In tomorrow session, what I will do, I will be explaining you guys, I'll be explaining you guys which part of this driver program will work, which part of the code will work on the executors. Because here it looks simple program, but as we discussed in the architecture, we have a driver program, we have a worker nodes. So which part will work, which part will run in the driver, which part will run in the workers, we need to know. That's what the Venkat question in beginning of our session, right? So we will see that in detail. I hope everyone is in the same step. Let me see whether it's compiling successfully or it's throwing any exceptions. Sometimes it will give the compatibility issues. Nothing, it's well and good. It looks nothing. Okay, this is your Spark UI. Yeah, got you. This is Spark UI URL. Okay, so we can copy this. You can go and put into your browser. If it recognizes this name, well and good. If it's not recognized, you have to say some name 127.0.0.1 like that you have to use. If it recognizes, well and good. If it is not recognized, you just say it's not recognized. One 27.0.0.1. Try 4040. This is Spark UI. Job suggested that's completed. That's the reason it's not showing. I think to show that history, we need to enable something. We will check that. Go here, and what is our first print line? Number of partitions. Look at here, number of partitions. 8. Number of partitions are 8. After the transformation also 8. So number of partitions are not changed after you apply the map transformation. What is the partition? Can anyone tell me? Praporna, what is the partition? Partition is nothing but a collection of data. Okay. Partition is nothing but a collection of data. It will be there some part of the data in it. Okay. We will see in detail. So because to run the parallel process, see, we discussed about input split. Your partition is nothing but input split. So for this data, it is divided 8 partitions. It is divided 8 partitions. Why 8 partitions? We don't not even have
Because
8 numbers. We not even have 8 numbers. 8 collection of data.
because number of cores present in that machine.
Yes. So when we given your master local star, we have given. When you say local star, his mission configuration, how many cores mission, maybe i7 or i5, you have that processor, right? In this process, how many cores are there? Those many partitions will be created, whether the data is there or not secondary. Those many partitions will be created. Okay, there is a possibility of the empty partitions also. Okay, so the printed after the transformation, again I printed the same, then the number is not changed, and come down and see your data, collect. Okay, the same program, let me execute in a Spark shell. Okay, just go ahead and copy paste. I'm not going to type, I just copy paste, take the data. I don't want to create a Spark and all those things. I told you, right? This is by default is available. They are already available. Hey, if you can close any unknown one, okay, no problem. I can just do this one. Look at here. Spark and SC both are available. Spark and SC both are available. Okay, so just do this one. This is the data is ready, and val rdd equal to sc dot parallelize data. I got the rdd. So rdd dot get num partitions, number of partitions you can see. Okay, 8 partitions. Then what I did, val map trans or map test equal to rdd dot map transformation I applied. Okay, yearly into 10. Nothing, simple transformation. Okay, to make you understand. Okay, so map transformation is applied. After map transformations, I check that number of partitions. Again, get num partitions. Okay, 8 only. It means after before transformation and after transformation, there is no change in the partitions as of now. Okay, because it is a narrow transformation. I want to tell you in detail about later. So this is called narrow transformation. Now collect, right? So now, sir, you have created 8 partitions. I mean, the system has created 8 partitions. I want to see the data in each and every partition. I want to see data in every partition. Map test, or you can take the RDD also. RDD dot gloom dot collect. It will show you partition wise data. Okay, look at here, arrays of array. So your RDD is nothing but a collection of data. You guys remember that RDD is nothing but a collection of data. When you say collection of data, collection is nothing but this. You look at here the line number, this one. What it is? RDD of integers. It's array. It is array. Okay, it is an array. So look at here. Array of first partition empty. Second partition you have only one value. Third partition has only one value. Fourth, fifth is empty. Sixth is has one value. Seventh has one value. Eighth has one value. So you have a 6 values and 8 partitions are there, but this is how that internally the partition has been divided. Yes, it's fine. It's fine to have the empty partitions. These are 2 empty partitions. Okay. Similarly with the map test also. Similarly with the map test also. You can look at first is empty partition, second one has the data, third one has the data, fourth one has the data, fifth one is empty, sixth one has the data, seventh one has the data, eighth one has the data. Okay, so this is just a sample. Okay, so tomorrow we'll see in detail, and tomorrow I'll explain the flow. So tomorrow actually creating a project and other stuff eaten up the time. Tomorrow we'll see in detail. Any questions before we wind up? Any questions before we wind up the session today? No questions? Prapurna, Praneeth, Prem, Raghu, Rishabh, Suma,
No,
Varsha.
Ravi.
Okay. Okay. So please make sure that
Ravi.
everyone has a setup by tomorrow. Everyone is able to execute the programs. As I said, I want you guys to execute the programs. So that then only we will, that's how we will learn. Okay. So that's it, guys. Thanks. Thank you for your time. So we'll connect tomorrow and we will continue.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Ravi.
Thanks, Ravi.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Ravi.